Those guys.
Hello and welcome. You're watching the newsroom with me, Kriti Mehta. In this show, we're going to bring you a roundup of all the top stories that took place today. But first off, let's start off with some breaking news now coming in from Syria, where an immediate ceasefire has been agreed upon by the SDF and the Kurds. That's the latest news that's coming in from Syria. Syrian government and the SDF have agreed on immediate ceasefire as per state media reports. This includes the handover of territory and natural resources by the SDF. The agreement has followed a lightning advance by Syrian government forces, capturing the strategic towns of Tabqa from the SDF during push towards the key city of Raqqa in the north. Heavy clashes, meanwhile, are being reported in areas east of Deir Azur, as the military says its forces are in full control of Deir Hafar, and they've captured the Jara airbase to the east and are in the process of clearing landmines. The government has extended its grip on Kurdish-run areas after President Ahmed al-Shara issued a decree declaring Kurdish a national language while granting the minority official status. Syria's army says 4 of its soldiers have been killed in the attacks by Kurdish fighters, and the SDF acknowledges some of its troops died in battle but doesn't give a number. Those are the latest updates that are coming in from Syria. Let's in fact provide you with some more details of what the statements have come out. Syrian president has signed new deal with Kurdish Syrian Democratic Forces as per privately owned Syria TV. The deal between Syrian government, SDF, includes handing over all rights of oil fields to the Syrian government, and it also includes merging all SDF forces into the Ministry of Defense. The deal between Syrian government and the Syrian Defense Forces entails state institutions that will enter eastern and northeastern governorates. And once again, Syrian government and the SDF have agreed on an immediate ceasefire on all fronts in parallel with the withdrawal of all SDF forces to east of the Euphrates, as per Syrian state media reports. And with that, viewers, we're now going to proceed to some news on Greenland. Now, European leaders who've been threatened with sanctions by US President Donald Trump in his bid to acquire Greenland have issued a joint statement vowing on maintaining their sovereignty in the front of aggression by Donald Trump. 8 European nations have backed Greenland and Denmark in the face of Trump's annexation threats and have issued a joint statement as US President announced tariffs to force talks with European Union. Now, as members of NATO, we are committed to strengthening Arctic security as shared transatlantic interest. That's the statement that's come out from Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, and Britain. The statement also adds that tariff threats undermine transatlantic relations and risk a dangerous downward spiral. We're also going to give you some more details of the statement that has been issued. It's a joint statement, once again, viewers, by Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, and the UK. And let me quote the statement. It says, as member of NATO, we are committed to strengthening Arctic security as a shared transatlantic interest. The pre-coordinated Danish exercise Arctic Endurance conducted with allies responds to this necessity. It poses no threat to anyone. We stand in full solidarity with the Kingdom of Denmark and the people of Greenland. Building on the process begun last week, we stand ready to engage in dialogue based on the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity that we stand firmly behind. Tariff threats undermine transatlantic relations and risk a dangerous downward spiral. We will continue to stand united and coordinated In our response, we are committed to upholding our sovereignty. That's a statement that's been put out, in fact, on social media. In fact, we have some statements also coming in. Let's listen in.
It's a serious situation, and we're concerned. We're concerned about this escalation, to be absolutely clear. We always will support sovereignty and territorial integrity of countries wherever their geographic location is. I might add, to bring it to the current discussion today, as part of the discussions the Emir and I had about a series of situations which would have a common element, which is threats to or compromising territorial integrity and sovereignty, Ukraine being a very prominent example. But I'll bring it back now to Greenland. So we will always support that. The future of Greenland, decisions about the future of Greenland, are for Greenland and Denmark to decide. And the security of Greenland, security is first and foremost for them, but very much falls within the responsibilities of NATO.
All right, I have my colleague Meher Khurana joining me from the newsroom. Meher, what's really it that can be expected out of the transatlantic alliance going forward? Also take us through the statements of other European leaders that are coming in.
Well, yes, obviously a lot of comments have come in from Europe and its allies, the NATO allies that are supporting Denmark over the Greenland bid that Trump is pushing for. Now, this obviously starts up with US President Donald Trump imposing tariffs on 8 European countries, which are namely Denmark, Finland, Sweden, France, Germany, the Netherlands and the Great Britain. Now these tariffs are going to be 10% starting February 1st, and are most likely, Trump has also threatened that he will be increasing the tariffs up to 25% if in case these countries do not cooperate with the United States and support it to buy Greenland. Now Trump's tariffs, as I said, are set to begin on February the 1st, and Trump has argued that Greenland is essential for the Golden Dome, and this is the US's advanced missile defense system. Now Trump has claimed that Denmark is incapable of defending its Arctic territory. And most alarmingly, it's also important to note that the White House has still not ruled out taking control of the territory by force. And the European response, as you asked for earlier, now as you mentioned earlier, there has been a joint statement released by these 8 threatened European nations, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden and the United Kingdom have released a joint statement, and they've emphasized their commitment to the Arctic security and sovereignty. Now, apart from that, other European leaders such as Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has labelled the tariffs as a mistake, and she's also said that she spoke directly to US President Donald Trump to voice her opposition regarding these tariffs and sanctions that have been put on these nations. Now, French President Emmanuel Macron has been pushing the European Union to activate the anti-coercion instrument, which is a tool to counter such aggressive trade tactics. Now, Germany's finance minister has also voiced strong opposition, and he stressed that the importance he stressed on the European nations to remain united. Now, it's also important to go through why Trump is stressing on Greenland, and it's more than the land, it's about the strategic jewel. Now, as the Arctic ice melts, new shipping lanes are being opened, which China and Russia want to control, and obviously the rare earth minerals that Greenland holds The country holds 25 of the 34 minerals that the European Union has classified as rare and critical. Now, untapped oil, which the US administration views as very important, is also available in the region. Now, about 56,000 people are currently living in the Arctic country of Greenland, out of which a lot of people want the country to be an independent state. Now, Greenland is currently under the Danish rule. Now, on the other hand, apart from the European response, Greenland has also responded, and Greenland and Denmark have firmly rejected the idea of selling the island. And Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen has reiterated her stance. She said that Greenland is not for sale, and the people of Greenland have also made it clear that they do not wish to join the United States. Apart from that, Canada has also responded. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has emphasized the future of Greenland should be decided by Greenland and Denmark only, and he said that Canada's stance on supporting NATO's responsibility is ensuring Greenland's security. Now, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has warned that an invasion of Greenland could make Putin, Russian President Vladimir Putin, the happiest man on earth, and he's argued that it will legitimize Russia's territorial claims in Ukraine. Now, EU ambassadors are meeting in an emergency session, and all eyes are also on the World Economic Forum, where US President Donald Trump and other world leaders from Europe are going to be meeting. And as the US tariffs kick in on February 1st, now we'll be tracking this news very closely and bring you all the updates as and when they come in. Over to you, Kriti.
Meher, thank you very much for filling us and our viewers for all those latest details coming up. And with that, viewers, we're now going to move on to cover some news on the Gaza Board of Peace. In fact, there is breaking news now coming in that says that US President Donald Trump has invited India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi to be a part of this Board of Peace. Also, having received the invitation is Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Trump invited India to be part of the so-called Board of Peace for Gaza along with other world leaders. This is as per reports that are now coming in. Trump had in fact unveiled the board as part of the second phase of the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas to end Israel's bombardment of Gaza. And the body is expected to oversee capacity building for governance, reconstruction, investments, and capital mobilization in the devastated enclave. Breaking news coming in, viewers. Reports suggest that India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi have been invited. The development, in fact, coming hours after Pakistan's Foreign Office said in a statement that Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif had received the invitation from Trump to join the Board of Peace. Turkey President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and the leaders of France, Germany, Australia, and Canada have also reportedly been invited to join the board. A draft charter has been sent to some 60 countries by Trump administration, calling for members of the board to contribute $1 billion in cash if they want their membership to last more than 3 years. I now invite my colleague Meher Khurana to join us back in the discussion here. Meher, firstly, do take our viewers through the constituents of this Board of Peace, who are the members, and then the contention over the $1 billion fee that Trump is asking for members to stay in the board for a period of 3 years.
Well, yes, Kriti, now the second phase of Trump's 20-point Gaza peace plan has officially begun, and it has begun by Trump announcing the members of his Gaza Board of Peace. Now, Trump will be chairing this board, and he will also hold a veto power. Now, it's important to note that what is the purpose of this board? Now, the purpose of this board is to govern, rebuild, and stabilize the Gaza Strip. and work to rebuild it. Now, US President Donald Trump will be chairing is the inaugural chair with the absolute veto power over all resolutions, and he also has the right to approve the official seal and the authority to single-handedly expel member nations from the board. Now, as you mentioned earlier, a leaked draft charter has been sent to about 60 countries by the United States, and the standard membership according to that charter lasts 3 years, which is subject to obviously the chairman's renewal. And however, any nation that contributes $1 billion in cash within the first year is exempt from the term limit of the 3 years, and then they will be getting a permanent seat in the board. Now, each member gets one veto vote, but the final approval is obviously the chairman's. Now, this turns Gaza reconstruction into a massive venture capital project with obviously funding being involved. Now, by demanding $1 billion for a permanent seat, the US is filtering for serious partners while effectively freezing and labeling out smaller or more critical nations into this, with keeping that $1 billion cap in mind. Now, in a rare public split, Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has also expressed his criticism over the composition of the Gaza Executive Board, and he said that Israel is not happy over the inclusion of Qatari diplomat Ali Al-Tawadi and Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan in this board, and Netanyahu's office claims that this was not coordinated and runs contrary to Israeli security policy. Now, on the other hand, Qatar's defense, now Doha, has fired back, stating that Tawadi is essential because of his direct lines to both Hamas and the Israeli security establishment and his deep involvement in the Trump's 20-point Gaza peace plan. Now, Netanyahu is currently meeting with his security cabinet to discuss whether Israel will cooperate with the board or not. And coming back to your question, now a breakdown of the members in Trump's board of peace. Now, Trump is obviously the chairman, the chair, and he holds the veto power. Apart from that, the first member is Tony Blair, who is the former British Prime Minister, and he's the only non-US citizen of the founding board. Apart from that, the second member is Marco Rubio, US Secretary of State, who is overseeing the diplomatic integration of this plan. The third member is Steve Witkoff, who is US Special Envoy. He's tasked with the demilitarization of Gaza and negotiating with regional partners. The fourth member is Jared Kushner, who's Trump's son-in-law and advisor as well, and he's the architect of the Abraham Accords, and he's focused on the waterfront property vision, which is turning Gaza into an economic hub rather than a dependency. The fifth member is Mark Rowan, who is the CEO of Apollo Global Management, and he represents the private sector in this board, and he brings financial expertise into the table. As the sixth member comes Ajay Banga, who is the president of the World Bank, and he provides the institutional financial backbone and ensuring that global development funds are funneled through the board's transparent business model. The seventh member is Robert Gabriel, who's US National Security Advisor and long-term Trump loyalist, who manages the security and intelligence coordination between the board and the International Stabilization Force. Now, apart from that, as you mentioned, as per reports, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also been invited to join this board of peace, and in a major move, Prime Minister Mark Carney, Canadian Prime Minister, has agreed in principle to join while he's still reviewing the $1 billion peace tag. On the other hand, Hungary's Viktor Orban has already accepted the invitation and has called it an honor. Argentina's Javier Milei has also jumped on the board, and Jordan's King Abdullah and Pakistan's Shehbaz Sharif, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, has have also received invitations and are reviewing them as of now. These are the members and a breakdown of all the members on Trump's Gaza Peace Board, and we will bring you all the updates. Over to you.
All right, Meher, thanks very much once again for joining us and for sharing the updates for our viewers. All right, viewers, with that, we are now going to proceed and cover some news from Iran, where we are now learning that the latest death toll from protests has risen to 5,000. And this, mind you, is as per Iranian state officials. The latest death toll in the anti-government protests in Iran has been quoted to be at least 5,000, as Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei blames the United States for these deaths. He said that several thousand people were killed during recent anti-government protests, blaming individuals linked to the US and Israel for the violence. It is in fact the first time he has publicly acknowledged the scale of deaths during these anti-government protests. He described Trump as a criminal and said the US president played a central role in what he called was an organized attempt to destabilize Iran. Khamenei had said that people linked to the US and Israel were responsible for the violence during the protests, and also accused the two countries for directing the unrest that's prevailing in Iran. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump responded to Khamenei, said Iran should seek new leadership, calling for an end to the long rule of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He said to a news portal, Donald Trump said it's time to look for new leadership in Iran. In fact, responding to the post, Trump also said that Iran's leaders rule through force and fear. In fact, to quote the exact statement that Trump made, he said what he is guilty of as the leader of a country is the complete destruction of the country and the use of violence at levels that were never seen before. Meanwhile, there are, viewers, different reports coming in as far as the death toll is concerned. US-based rights activists have said that 3,000 people were killed. Iranian authorities have previously acknowledged only hundreds of deaths until the recent confirmation by Khamenei, who said thousands were killed, while he was blaming Donald Trump for this. Meanwhile, in the latest, Iran President Pezeshkian has said that response to any military aggression will be harsh. He has responded, in fact, to Donald Trump's military intervention threat, saying Iran's response to any military aggression will be harsh and regrettable. And with those details, I would now like to request my colleague Meher to join us back and tell us the latest that she's picking up from the newsroom here.
Well, yes, Kriti. Now, after a long period of time, the protests in Iran have subsided as of now. Even though after a major internet blackout that took place in the country, and we could not even receive visuals, and people were posting through the Starlink, Musk Starlink internet system, which was available to them. And apart from that, for the first time, as you mentioned, now Iran has now confirmed the death toll, and they've stated that according to Iranian officials, 5,000 people have been dead in these nationwide protests that have taken place for about 2 weeks now. Now, internal verification includes approximately 4,500 civilians and 500, I beg your pardon, security personnel out of these 5,000 people. Now, while protests span all of 31 provinces, mostly these provinces were in northwestern Iran. And contradictory reports, as you mentioned earlier, the independent groups like the HRANA, the rights group, has warned that thousands of arrests and hundreds of cases are under review, and the true number could be far higher. and some even estimate that the death toll is reaching 20,000. Now let's also include what Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has said. Now he has broken his silence finally, and he's labelled the protests as a premeditated conspiracy which was involved by US and Israel, and he's accused protesters of acting as mercenary agents who are vandalizing their own country. And they're doing this just to please the United States, according to Khamenei. Now, in a rare move, Khamenei has also admitted that the concerns of merchants regarding the rials, their currency's collapse, are legitimate, but he insisted that the currency is unstable and is an artificial attack by foreign powers. Now, the regime's stance remains the same. They view this not as a civil uprising but as a war for survival against the arrogant partners. Now, on the United States side, Trump has recently claimed credit for stopping the planned execution of 800 protesters in Iran. And he's stated that his threat of very strong action, which he threatened Iran with earlier, forced Iran to think again. And earlier, Trump had imposed 25% tariffs on any country, including China and India, that continues to do business with Iran. And just yesterday, Trump called for a new leadership in the country, and he also referred to Khamenei as a sick man and in the Middle East. Now, apart from that, an important person, Raza Pahlavi, who's the son of the previous crown prince who has been in exile, has also been supporting the protesters, and he's said that he will be coming back to the country soon. Now, Pahlavi announced a formal plan for a transitional government, and he stated that he does not seek the throne but wishes to act as a figurehead to oversee a constitutional convention where Iranians will in fact decide between a secular republic or a constitutional monarchy in the region. Now, while Pahlavi has called Trump a man of his words, he has recently urged the White House to act sooner rather than later, and Iran has obviously been under a near total internet blackout for weeks, as I mentioned earlier, and NetBlocks confirms that the connectivity is now being restored slowly, but is being used as a weapon to prevent the revolution from being televised. And even though protests have subsided, but updates regarding this matter are coming in. And over to you.
All right, Meher, thanks very much then once again for taking our viewers through the latest as far as the developments in Iran are concerned. With that, viewers, that's a wrap on this episode of the Newsroom. Thanks for staying tuned to NewsX World for all international news and updates.